Istanbul, the bridge between Europe and Asia, East and West, an ideal setting for a conference focusing on the need for more just societies, particularly in the Middle East and North Africa. The discussions centered on the global movement for justice, peace and dignity, but also addressed fears of extremism taking root in the vacuum created by the fall of authoritarian governments. Panelists examined the root causes of the revolutions sweeping the Muslim world.
We have had ruling elites who have neglected the people, who do not care for the ordinary human being, because we have had endemic corruption.
Professor, you have been...
Delegates looked at both the political and economic aspects of the region's future prospects, with social and economic justice closely intertwined.
If you look at Egypt in the past 6 years, we had nearly $50 billion worth of FDI coming in. How much of that trickled down? It's very limited. How much stayed between the 200 to 400 families at the top? They took it all in, and that's been the problem.
The uncertainty now is over what type of society will emerge. Given the fear of militant and extremist Islamization, this is of particular concern to the West, which not only tolerated but also endorsed the region's authoritarian regimes to maintain regional stability in the past.
Reconciliation and accommodation work better than confrontation and a hard power approach. I think the United States' response after 9/11 has been disastrous from this perspective, inflaming relations with Islam rather than finding the path toward accommodation with moderate Islam.
I have always insisted that the road to reconciliation between the West and Islam probably would have to run through Southeast Asia. And Turkey ideologically is quite close to what we have experimented in Southeast Asia.
The Malaysian Prime Minister, on an official visit to Turkey, said his country alongside Turkey could be a potential role model with its differing religions, ethnic groups and a successful and growing economy.
We can offer the Malaysian model, if you like, because it has worked, because we've been able to lead this transformation from a relatively poor nation, a nation whose economy was based on agriculture. We have moved to an industrial economy or industrializing economy.
Malaysia is working to join the ranks of fully developed nations by the end of this decade. The Malaysian model of moderation and multicultural inclusion was endorsed by Turkey, which spoke of its own recent steps in opening up its society.
We have more and more of a progressive democracy, more and more of a representative democracy. We have become a very open society, a country with more than 400 TV channels, with more than 1,100 radio channels and free debate going on.
In this world of globalization,
All agreed that the path of moderation in the domestic sphere should be extended to international relations. The Prime Minister of Malaysia used the Istanbul conference to repeat his call for a global movement of the moderates, first issued last September at the United Nations General Assembly.
The moderate path, I think, represents the approach of the Turkish and Malaysian foreign policy to their international diplomacy, which emphasizes cultural traditions rooted in Islam, but also emphasizes tolerance and respect for others.
There were some concerns that the revolutions, particularly in Egypt, might be hijacked by potentially extremist Islamic movements.
Democracy itself is not a panacea. Democracy must be accompanied by values. And one of the most important values is to reject violence.
That said, the overall mood was cautious support for the changes in the Middle East.
The masses, the millions of Muslims, Christians and others living in the Arab world who are saying, we think that we can bring about change through non-violence, through peaceful methods. And that, I think, is very, very significant.